Let's talk about a simple way to start this downswing. We're out on the golf course, 12th hole here, long iron shot. Now, these strike fear into most of us, but this simple trigger is going to really help you deliver the club into that slot easily. Now, no matter your age or ability, this is going to be a great trigger for you. So don't worry if you feel like you can't make too much of an athletic move. I have you covered. Now, you've just seen my new bag, all waterproof. Now, if you're in Manchester, right, you will totally understand why I've gone fully waterproof. Even though it looks all right today, do not be fooled. But I've got a question for you. Do you prefer to carry or trolley? Get in those comments and let's get into this video. So we can get lost, can't we? When we're hitting this downswing, just get a yardage to start with here. 190, wow. Didn't look that far. 190, okay. So we can sort of get lost. Do we start our downswing feeling the arms? We always hear about moving the lower half, but I think a lot of us find it hard to get a trigger. So we're going to talk about this in two situations. One where we're going to use this little bit of a wedge, and also something to do if you haven't got a wedge like this that you can use as a trigger. So I want you to work the downswing feeling like we've got a little bit of a sequence happening. So I've got a tennis ball here, I've got an arrow on top of my tennis ball, and you can see this close up now, pointing all the way to target. So what I want you to have the ability in your downswing is to use the arms and body together and get this club face pointing somewhere to target. So many of us start this downswing really working on the body, the arms, but we forget completely about this. I saw this the other day in a lesson and I was like, well, that's great, we're moving much better, but our club face is wide open. We've got no way of squaring that. So we need to make sure it's all a thing in conjunction. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put my right foot and my trail foot on this little bit of a wedge. Now, if I make a backswing here, I actually stay a lot more sort of centered over the golf ball, which is also a great trigger for a lot of us, okay? And we do that sort of automatically. Think of that as like a bit of a Brucey bonus to this drill. And now I want you to feel like we're going to drop the club, okay? And then we're going to just let everything go. That's what I want us to do. I want us to be able to get into a position at last parallel where we have no swing thoughts at all. We just let the club tumble and unwind onto the ball. That is the far better way to be, rather than trying to feel like we're jousting this club and guiding this club into impact. So watch this right now. We're going to swing to the top. This is going to help us keep a lot more centered. What I want you to feel, we make this move. This move. Now, this wedge is great because it starts to push me to get my weight onto my lead side, and it allows that club to drop. Now, at the same point, what I want you to feel as though my lead wrist remains nice and flat. We're not cupping this, coming into impact in this motion. So cupped and straight. I want you to be cupped with the right, straight with the left. So if we did a drill here, and I'm going to use a tennis ball because I can feel like I'm trying to match that club up into impact, I'd want you to go up, let it drop, let it go. So right there, I knew my club face was going to be nice and square at impact, and my tennis ball went straight down target. So I had that feeling of, right, okay, everything's prepared up to this point, let it go. And this really helped me do that. So let's just take a golf ball and show you over here on this downhill slope exactly how you can do this if you haven't got one of those wedges. Because this downhill slope is great for iron shots. It helps you get that bottom of the arc past the ball because it triggers you to transfer that weight in transition. So don't forget, we're going to stick to this and we're going to give you a great analogy. Now, I'm not going to be able to hit this shot simply because this is not where you want to put it here on the 12th at Mottram. But the premise of this stays the same. So you watch this from a down the line perspective, it'd be up, allow me to stay more centered. The trigger is a little bit of a shift and rotation, and then let the club go. So look how simple that whole thing then becomes. I've not got a complex thought of do this, do that, belt buckle, feel this, do that. I'm preparing everything up to hip height on the way down, and then transferring my weight through. Now the downhill slope, like I mentioned, if you come across this face-on perspective, really helps us get this bottom of the arc past the ball. Now the one thing I would say, if you do have a little bit of sensitive knees or bad knees and injuries on that, don't choose such a severe slope. If I went slightly down this slope here, it would simply have the same effect. So I could stand here, stay a little bit more centered and turned on the backswing, and then shift and drop the club, let it go. Now look, if I put my hand back on there, that's exactly where I want to be. I've started it nice and smooth, I've let the club go, I've not guided, I've not chicken winged. It couldn't be simpler to get that. Now, I realise you might be looking at me, Alex, there's not a lot to that. Surely that's where we want to be on the golf course, right? We've been, far too many of us, I'm going to actually hit one where I can hit the green here, guys. Otherwise I'm requiring like a low rising fadey hooky thing. We always want to be in that situation where we have very little thoughts. Like I've given a few lessons this week and people go, is that all we're doing? I'm like, yeah, that's all we need to do. Far too many of us, and I've been guilty of this, too many swing thoughts, too many bad thoughts, and no clarity. So I'm going to give you the clarity to take to the golf course now. We've had our bit of a wedge, we've had our practice on a bit of a downhill lie. Now it's time to have some clarity on the golf course. 190. I'm not putting off the shot, I promise. I'm not putting off the shot. I don't want to thin it. Okay, so what I want you to feel, we're going to build this into our game here now. It's going to feel like we swing up, stay centered, drop the club, feel like we're pressing off that. Okay, so it feels like we're pressing off the wedge or pressing off the side of the slope. Drop the club, let it go. Second practice swing, drop it, both hands on, let it go. Now we can just walk into the shot and play it away. So there we go, a simple trigger that allows you to prepare everything up to this height and let it go. My trigger for you here is 5% shift, 95% turn, and let that club go. Stop trying to guide it into impact. Almost use that premise of forgetting the ball's there. How many of us make a great practice swing and then we put the ball there and it goes? Forget the ball's there, prepare everything up to hip height, and you'll feel that your golf swing is so much smoother. Thank you so much for watching. I just want to point this out. I forgot to say up to this point actually. PDFs. Every single video we have a written guide that go along with these PDFs. The link is down below to the Facebook group. Join the Facebook group, Simple Golf Tips. I'll personally let you in and you can see this PDF as well as the rest of the content on the channel.